Hello and welcome to Whack-A-Mole Industries. I'm excited to be sharing this project with you as I'm seeing if I can build a DIY canvas wall tent. So to give you an idea of structure, the ridge post will fit along here, a leg here, and then there are the legs here for the wall portion, or the tent poles. Hold some scrap pieces of wood, and I'll be cutting them up to make the ridge post and the legs. Okay, I think I have all the wood parts of the tent cut and ready to be assembled. Just to run through the parts so far what I have made. Here are the legs of the tent, the ridge post, and then the legs that go on the outside of the wall tent walls. What am I doing with these pieces of metal? So this bed frame. You'll notice there's these tabs here. They can lock into these tabs here. So you might be catching the drift of my thought process here. If I take part of this part, mount it to this ridge post, and mount this part to this part, they should be able to lock together. Now I might have to recess the two together in order to make everything work properly. So I just cut these pins out of some almost 1/4 inch, 5/16 inch steel that I'm going to use to hold the ridge post to the legs of the tent. These are much heavier than a nail. I've used nails in the past and they work, so this is a step up. I need to pre-drill holes so that I can pound these pins into the top of these. I need a heavier hammer. Both are with pegs, ready to go. This is the ridge post, and this is going to match up with the peg that I just installed in the legs. I'm going to chop right here approximately this piece of angle iron bed frame. This is what I want, these parts right here. I'm going to have to recess the ridge post that this is going on. You'll see in just a second. So I'm going to cut this off. Here are the two pieces of interlocking bed frame that I cut off. You can see how they connect together. Okay, I marked this metal earlier right here, so I know how far I can push this in and still have space to lock in the other part of ridge post. So I just need to round over this corner a little bit more to fit the angle iron. Well, here it is. These are the two ridge post pieces, and here's how I join them. With the two pieces of bed frame, right here, it joins with this one. Like that, and locks into place. Very solid connection and very strong. But there's this gap here. So I made this safety pin setup. So not only does it act like a pin, blocking these from being able to slide apart, it also acts like a little hook to hang stuff inside the tent. Slides in, and then just a standard pin locks everything together into one very solid ridge post. You notice on this side, the pin here lines up with a hole on the ridge post. And it fits in like that. I could pound it in the rest of the way, it's a little tight. And you can see the pin fits in like that. I don't have it shoved in all the way together, just so I can get it apart a little easier. But very solid. If this starts splitting out here, I could wrap this part of the leg with wire or string or something. And then the wall tent legs. But I need to add a pin at the top and at the bottom. The bottom pin will just stick right into the dirt. Okay, so these are the nails I'm going to be using. Yes, they are bent, they're reclaimed. I pulled them out of another thing and I'm reusing them. And here's one installed. If they end up bending while the tent is set up, I will replace them with a heavier nail. Yes, you may be catching that this board is a little rough. That's kind of with the tent. I could try to make everything look perfect, spend the time trying to make everything look perfect. But for this application, that's not quite appropriate. So I'm going to be using these finishing nails. They're hopefully going to be strong enough, but they're mainly adding just a way just to help anchor this to the ground and help keep things from sliding around and also hold the canvas on the bottom of the wall tent to tuck underneath the peg or the leg of the wall. The legs are done now with the nail on the top with the head and the finishing nail on the end on the bottom to go into the dirt. Now the next thing is I need to make the guidelines. Now for the guidelines, I need tensioners. We're gonna actually be using a piece of scrap 2x4 left over from another project. So going on to rope, this time I'm gonna be using this 1/2-inch rope. This rope's from Harbor Freight. I've used rope from other places over the years. Some of my favorite rope was actually from Amazon. But then I also used this rope from Menards last year. It worked, it's not my favorite. It's not very consistent. You can see it kind of gets really like bulky in this section and then it gets down to the proper diameter there. It was really cheap, but I guess you get what you pay for. Surprised to hear that, aren't you? So most of the rope's going to be this rope from Harbor Freight this time. It's going to be interesting to see how it does. So to tell you how many guidelines I need, for each of these, which I have 8 of these, I need a guideline and tensioner. And then I also need one coming off of the peak of the tent to help hold everything tight and in place. For the rope tensioners, I'm going to use this piece of scrap wood. So I'm going to drill a bunch of holes in this. So how I'm going to go about doing this is 1 inch from the end, I'm going to drill a hole. Then I'm going to move down about 3 inches and put a hole on the center there. Then I'm going to move it down 2 inches, hole, 3 inch, hole, 2 inch, hole, 3 inch, hole. And then at those 2 inch gaps, intervals, I'm going to cut right down the middle of them. I think you kind of get the idea of how that works. Another thing too, is this is thick enough, I can make 2 from the width of this. So, I just need to make 5 sections of this, and then rip it down on the bandsaw, and then cut off each section. Now that the holes are all cut, it's time to rip this in half and cut it into each of its segments. Okay, it's time to make the guidelines now that I have the tensioners. So I've actually made like 3 of them. I'm gonna show you now my process. I'm starting off with the length of rope, and this is about an arm's length for me. But you're gonna have to determine how long of a rope you want. Now one thing I have run into, it's really hard to feed rope into a hole because it tends to fray out. But if you twist the rope so that the fibers actually tighten, you'll actually get a better chance of actually getting it into the hole. Now that I have it through the hole, I'll just tie off a knot at the end. And now that the knot's at the end, it keeps the rope from being able to pull through. And on this end, I'm gonna add a loop to go around the stake that's gonna be pounded into the ground. This will help hold the tent down. There we go. And here we have a guideline for the side. So which rope wins between the Menards rope and the Harbor Freight rope? The Harbor Freight rope, hands down. But on the other hand, the knots do have a tendency not to want to hold and they're a little bulkier, but the rope feels so much stronger and I like it. I think it's good. Now you're catching me trying a hack that I don't know how well it'll work. I don't know if other people have tried it, but I thought I would give it a try. I'm going to take hot glue and soak the ends and hopefully keep them from unraveling. The wall tent legs are done with the nails at the top to hold the canvas and for the guidelines, and then some finished nails at the end just so they can stick into the dirt and hold everything stationary in place. Then I also created all the guidelines necessary for the tent, or with the tensioners, so these can actually get tightened up. So this is going to go around the nail on the wall and be able to cinch up nice and tight, and this will go on the stake that gets pounded into the dirt to keep everything nice and solid. So that is part 1 to this DIY canvas wall tent build, and as you can see, it's going along quite well. So make sure to stay tuned, subscribe so you can see how this project progresses. Follow the shorts as I do put live updates as the project progresses. Also hit the thumbs up and comment down below. I'd love to hear from you guys. See you in future videos. Thank you for watching. Bye.